The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Dear listeners, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new day and a new show, The Modern Family, with a topic, continuing topic about media. We have touched on media in the past few days. We talk about social media and the internet. Today we are going to cover the most or the more conventional media. We're going to talk about TV, radio, cinema and magazine, or generally printed media. We have a guest that has been continually supporting us in the past few years and has been with us and enlightening the nation with his thoughts. We have in the studio today Ahmed bin Ali Al-Mukheni, a researcher in political development, in dialogue and human rights. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh, and thank you for having me again.
You're welcome, you're welcome. It's an honor to have you here.
That's very kind of you.
Hatim, how are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So, do you have a TV, Hatim, at your home?
For sure, I have a TV.
How many?
Unfortunately.
Are you one of those guys who have a TV in every corner?
I hope not. I have two.
You have two?
Yeah.
Wow, one more than me. I have a single TV, and I don't like it. I'm not saying that I'm not watching. I do watch it from time to time. I don't like TV. Because I think although it is very useful, it's a waste of time. It's probably not the TV itself, but the way we use it and the way that majority of people are using TV. Media has always been one of the most powerful tools that people are using. Would you say that media today, TV, cinema, radio, magazines and newspapers, are being utilized to their full potential? Are they being used for good, or are they using it for evil? Is it the way we use it?
First of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-mursaleen. I think media, in the forms that you have mentioned, like anything else in this world, you know, they can be used for good or for evil. I don't think they are evil in their own right, okay? But the use of media would definitely depend on few variables. Education level, also definition of a purpose and mission in life. People who have no purpose or mission in life would watch TV and use the media purposelessly. And I think also it depends on how we look at our role as parents in creating a bond within the family. Are we there just to have the children and then bring them food to the table, or are we there to instill within them values, principles, ways of living, and so forth? I mean, I don't like TV overall. I do watch it from time to time. I have my preferences, but I find that it's important for me to watch TV with my children and my wife because it has become a family function, a family event.
Yeah.
And if you do not watch TV, you may run the risk of not engaging with the family. And while you're watching TV with the family, you are also able to see what comes in contact with, what they come in contact with, and also what goes into their heads, and so forth. And, you know, while they're watching, you can talk to them about it. But for some families, for some subcultures within Oman, TVs have become essential. I know of families who do not watch TV at all, even their children, and nothing happened to their children. Their children are as sociable as any other children. But we have in our mind that, you know, TV makes you sociable, TV makes you know what's going on in the world.
This is the first time I hear that, because all I hear about TV and people who almost idolize TV and watch TV, that it makes them less social. Shut up, I'm watching. I'm listening.
That's good. If they are conscious of that, that's very good. Most people are not conscious of what the impact TV and even kind of documentary films and any kind of visual has on people, because it doesn't make people focus on what they're seeing, trying to absorb as much as they could, and not caring about communicating with the others. And that's why, for example, pardon me, I don't usually go to cinemas, because in cinemas you could waste 2 hours just watching film, and because you can't speak, and every time you open your mouth you will hear somebody from the back, shh, be quiet, okay? But while you watched, your a kind of a DVD or something at home, you could actually comment on it. Though at times I wouldn't encourage people to comment very often while you're watching film, because I often become very analytical of anything I see. I have to just to know why this person is there, why the choice of this color, is there something being conveyed to me without my conscious being aware of it.
Then we'll make sure we don't watch a movie with you.
We'll be really annoyed.
It's good. It's good. My friends tell me so. Yeah.
Okay, so I think the most of the time we'll focus on TV, but with an increasing number of magazines being are disappearing now, at least in the paper format, and turning into the e-format, where we are into the electronic era. How does that how does it change our behavior? Do people read newspapers and magazines the same way they used to read them before?
Of course, it depends on the generation. But if we're talking about children, and I mean children up to the age of 18, I don't think they care much about newspapers and magazines, except if it is sports magazine or it's an auto magazine, or some of the magazines that talk about youth issues. But again, I don't want to sound so condescending, but I find that quite few of the Arab youth or the Omanis that I've come across, quite few of them, they are not into the culture of reading. That's why they resort to the TV or they resort to the internet, because it's much easier for them to get the information without going through the reading and finding more and more themselves, trying to have some analysis done. So whether it's in e-format or paper format, it did not have much of an impact on young people in terms of the choice of topics, but definitely it made it much easier because people now, they have smartphones, children have smartphones, children have mini iPads and the rest of it, and tabs and notes and just name it, okay? So I think that makes it more accessible, and that's where we need to encourage. For example, with my children, I said to them, I don't expect you to spend all your time reading what is useful for you, but I only request you to spend 1/10 of your reading and your time in something useful. So you can spend the 9/10 whatever rubbish you want to do, but at least give me 1/10. That will create a sense of understanding and a sense of, duty. They feel that, they are obliged to do something of that because I have not been impinging on the 90% of their time.
Okay. I myself used to read a lot of magazines when I was a child, and my father used to bring me 2 of them weekly, some of the weekly magazines. Wow. And I used to enjoy reading them. Now, the good thing about those magazines, like Majid, Majallat Majid, and at those days, Basim as well, there is a mixture in these magazines between comical stories, as well as very important information and very useful information as well, and teachings. It teaches morality, it teaches ethics, it teaches ways of thinking. There are quizzes,
General knowledge.
And I used to look forward, as of course hundreds of thousands of other people who are into these magazines. Are you aware about the quality of these magazines? Today there are a lot of other magazines emerging, and we are into the electronic world and into gadgets. So even the type of and into entertainment more than actually reading the original or the other types of magazines like Majid, for example. Do you sense that there is a shift in quality of these magazines? Are you aware of that?
What I'm aware of, maybe I can say two things here. First, there is a change in quality, but there are some magazines like Majid, magazines that are issued by Al-Arabi, like Al-Arabi Saghir and so forth. They have maintained their quality in terms of print and in terms of the content, okay? But I think the shift has been in the interest, and the shift has been in the wanting to read Majid and Arabi Saghir through an e-format, not through a paper format, though they maintain, I think, both. If you go to Majid website, you can download a few bits and pieces. But the second point, which is quite important, not only now but also for the next generation, is that our tools for perception, our sensors have changed. So perhaps your generation and perhaps my generation, I'm much older than you, our sensors were used to the written word, something more static, okay? And even in schooling, the children now are not, they have been, kind of sensitized to rely more on the interactive modalities or into video. So I was actually discussing this with a Spanish friend who happens to be an educator, and she said to me that if I expect my children to learn about maths and science and about values in the same manner I was taught, I am mistaken. Okay? Let us use videos, let us use, TV programs. Let's have them immersed in all of these values and issues. And by interacting with them, these children, by interacting with this media, they would learn more than giving them a textbook and going through homeworks or exams. So their sensory devices have changed. They are different from our sensory devices, and we have to be cognizant of that.
Okay, you mentioned something very important. The quality of the content and the print of those useful magazines haven't changed, or some of them haven't changed, and probably they have improved to cope with the developments.
Competition also.
Yes. However, there is a change in interests. So young generation are more interested into technology, into social media, things that might enable them to interact. And sometimes just reading magazines that review gadgets, nothing more, nothing less.
Or sports.
That is, to me, I don't look at it as a very healthy substitute to what we used to have. It's a good addition, but it is not a substitute. And the way I see it is that the young generation have substituted that with these type of magazines, that it doesn't really add any sort of creative knowledge to them. All it adds is, this is the new gadget out, this is how you use it, this is what it enables you to do. How can a parent encourage their children to go back to that type of magazine, to like Majid, Al-Arabi Saghir, and the more informative magazines? For example, will it be sufficient that a parent, for example, might just buy a single magazine and just throw it on the table? Maybe someone will have a glance at it.
It's always useful. There is no magic formula for this. It varies, not only from one context to another, even within the same family, it varies from one child to another. For example, if I take my children, I have 4 boys, and each boy has different orientation in terms of reading style and reading topic. Okay, each one of them, and I deal with them, differently. And sometimes I might be harsher on the person who can do more in terms of reading, just to encourage that person. So I think, buying a magazine or buying a book as a substitute or as a really original source for information and values for them might work. Having competition, having rewards might actually work. But I think just being open-minded about it, it may not have the effect that you desire. I find that, for example, that my children learn from certain satellite channels lots of things that, despite all my reading to them, for example, Qasas al-Anbiya or some stories of values or even some Arabic, just by watching certain satellite channels, they have absorbed it because it was presented to them in a child manner. The person who designed the program understood how a child cognition works and presented to them. While when I was reading the books or the stories or trying to talk to them what we used to do, I was looking at it from a parent perspective, not from a child perspective.
Okay.
So I think we should not think that there is one way to acquire all of this. It has to be a multitude of things.
So parents need to be very creative
Definitely.
with their children, and they need to cater for each child's needs.
Differences.
And understand how they operate. Yeah.
I think that the visual images in media, whether it is TV channels or magazines, it makes a big difference because what they need at this moment and what attracts them, it's totally different.
Definitely.
Once I bought a traditional teenage magazine for my daughter, which is the latest edition, but she was not attracted to the images in the magazine. And even if I show her, for example, the old cartoons that we used to watch, they are very boring to them. They don't make sense. So the images that they are looking for are totally different.
Yeah.
And that might be the reason that would restrict them from getting into reading or watching these programs.
Thank you, Hatem. Dear listeners, our topic today in the Modern Family is media. We are discussing TV, cinema, radio, magazines and newspapers, and we have with us in the studio Ahmed bin Ali Al-Mukhaini. Please call us with your questions or comments or contributions on 24602058. That's 24602058. It seems that wherever we go, or each topic we touch, we have to mention the word TV again and again and again. So we go back to TV. TV has moved on quite a lot from the time when we started watching, and it would probably start at 4 o'clock, or it starts at night for a couple of hours and then switches off back. Before we continue on that, we have a caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Azhar Mahmoud with you.
Azhar Mahmoud, welcome back. How are you? You are part of the show.
Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah, fine, sir. By the grace of Allah Ta'ala and with all your blessings, inshallah, goes well. Well, today is another, alhamdulillah, very good current technologically subject we are discussing. That makes, of course, a lot of changes. But again, where the advantages are there, obviously some disadvantages are also there. Parents how long they can monitor for everything. Everything they can't, because they have got their own life.
Yeah.
They both are busy nowadays. They can control for extent. Okay, sometimes, okay, fine, I can control my kid. My neighbor, he also have got the same thing. In his house, liberty is there.
Yeah.
So I can't control my son. He might be going there. I don't know what he's going to do there. But
So,
my neighbor child, he might be very much comfortable. His parents don't have any objection. So how we can bring up this negative image also, that also we have to advise our kids. This is good, that is bad.
okay, so control
children,
as a strategy doesn't work.
Yes. No, it works. What I mean to say is, when my child, when we have to ask them what he has watched there, we have to advise them, see, those things are bad, these things are good.
Okay.
It is not, that is also we have to brief our kids what is plus and what is minus. In
Thank
the
you.
programs, in mass media, how they are watching, what they are watching.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Azhar. Thank you. So, Ahmed, we have thousands of channels nowadays, and they're 24/7. Unlike the old days, where we are waiting eagerly for the 2 hours of broadcast. Do we need to install all of these channels?
No, you don't.
I mean, we hear this a lot from parents, saying this classical sentence, I really don't know how to operate the receiver. It's my children who have set it up. And it's to me, it's alarming. It's alarming because this is an intruder into the house. The TV, especially the satellite receiver, is an intruder into the TV. That we bring our own. We buy the receiver, we buy the TV, we let it in, and it's there 24/7. We are not. So the children are exposed to these, and we don't even know how to operate them, which means that we can't control them. We can't, children might control it and have a password so we can't see what they see, which is supposed to be the other way around. What are your comments on this?
I mean, first of all, I think it's a duty of parents to know how to operate these receivers, whatever technology they operate, whether it's HD or digital, whatever, they have to know. And I don't think, you need to install all the 1,000 channels that come. I know people say, I paid for it, it's free, I might as well just have it. But it's not healthy. Not for the children, it's not healthy for the parents. Because adults can get very much glued into their chair, passing through thousands and thousands of channels. And so, in my opinion is, you have to be very careful, filter these and select the one that you like. My family and I, we go through these satellite channels, and I could count 10 to 12 perhaps of these channels that we watch. The rest we don't watch at all. So we delete quite few of them, and so forth. On one hand, I think it's also good for that the children know how to operate, because it's telling the child that I trust you. I'm not giving you away from this technology, but I'm giving you a responsibility of watching it with consciousness. And on one hand also, it gives the child a sense that he knows something that his father doesn't know about, so they can contribute to it. He feels he's superior technologically, and that kind of creates a bond also of a different kind between the child and the parent.
But Ahmed, sorry to interrupt you, shouldn't you also at least have the basic knowledge on how to operate that?
Yeah, definitely.
At least deceive him that you don't know, to make him feel good, but at the same time you should know something about it.
This is what I said in the beginning. It's a responsibility of parents. For example, I have my children computers. I have them on parental control. And I show my children the report that the firewall prints to me on what kind of website, how much time they have spent on which website, and so forth. And they get alarmed, that I can do this, okay? But you have to tell them. And you have to show them. It's important. Because why do you want to give your child to make him a human being? He or she to take care of themselves. For a particular period of their time, you need to guide them. You need to make sure that they do not actually fall beyond return.
Okay.
I have a report here about television that I would like to share with you. It says, not all television programs are bad, but data showing the negative effects of exposure to violence, inappropriate sexuality, and offensive language are convincing. And these are some of the negative aspects of television. There is a relationship between watching violent television programming and an increase in violent behavior by children. Excessive television watching contributes to the increased incidence of childhood obesity. Excessive television watching may have an effect on learning and academic performance. Watching certain programs may encourage irresponsible sexual behavior. Television is an effective way of advertising products to children of various ages.
And that's what it is. Every time we go out, my children would say, can we buy this? I say, what is this? They would name a product. You don't know this? I say, no. Where did you know about it? Because I know that I haven't taken you to a place where no, you can go and buy it from Toys R Us, you can go and buy it from Baby Shop or from this shop or that shop. And sometimes it's not a shop that is even in Oman. So we need to travel to that shop. So they are targeting children in many ways, and this really sums up what children could be exposed to in TVs.
Yeah, I think pardon me. In response to the excerpt of the report mentioned by Hatem, there has been a recommendation that children should be exposed maximum to 30 minutes of TV per day. Okay, and of course you know that most families in Oman exceed this, by 10 times.
Yeah.
But I think you should try it. If they don't want to do kind of half an hour, maybe you can do it 1 hour and spread them.
Yeah.
You will have challenges. You will have resistance from the other partner, perhaps, and you from the children. But it's something worthwhile, because what has been scientifically proven that exposure to TV rays and all this kind of visual interaction with the TV and similar kind of screening does impact the neural network within the human brain, and it impacts it at times to a point beyond return. You can't fix it, and it damages the brain cells and the thinking functions.
Wow.
The other thing that I noticed, that sometimes when children are watching these programs, they are like hypnotized.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you talk to them, they're in a different world. They don't hear you at all. And
Definitely.
I always have an argument with my daughter. Whenever I come back from work, I expect her to stand up and say, hey, Salam Alaikum. And she would be watching a program. She would hear the door. She would hear me say Salam Alaikum. But she is in a different world. She doesn't hear at all. I call her name maybe 3 times.
So what do you do?
I've learned that the first thing that I do when I come in, I say Salam Alaikum, and I don't get a response, I go immediately and turn off the TV. And then I get her attention. And then she says sorry. So the next day when I come in, once she hears the door, she knows, okay, the TV is going to be off.
I would recommend next time you go and you hear the TV and you say Salam Alaikum, don't switch off the TV, but just go and hug them. Make their mind get used to the idea that every time you come, it's an opportunity for them to get love. Because children resort to TV when they don't find attention from others. Or when, of course, information on TV is presented in a way that is more useful to them. But what I do with my children, I find it quite useful for me as a person and for them, is when I get into the house, it has become a ritual now that they come and hug me. And if they don't come because they are busy with TV or busy with something else, I would go and make the effort to hug them. And it's very important for them.
Wouldn't you have a half hug where their eyes are on the screen and
it's okay.
The body's there, but the spirit is somewhere else.
It's okay. If you really hug them and you really pull them very tight to your chest and then you whisper in their ears, okay, something about why they are watching this, why they didn't come, and it comes with love. Love is very powerful in human relationships.
Well, I think you have a challenge hugging your 5 kids at the same time.
Well, I get bear hugs all the time.
Good, that's very good.
Yes, I get bear hugs all the time. Something more powerful than love is tickles. I just tickle them and it takes their attention off the TV.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's good.
So with that, we'll take a break. We'll take a short break, dear listeners, and we'll come back. So you can call us on 24602058 after the break.
The Modern Family.
Now what is happening is probably one of the most effective, diabolical means of propaganda. The television, the media, that in its inception appeared to be a very innocent tool, has now become a powerful tool of mind control. Anybody can be demonized. And people are watching that television and they believe in it. If the CNN says it, it must have happened. This is being beamed all over the world, in the mountains of Nepal, in the deserts of the Sahara, in the jungles of South America. Somebody got a TV. and they're watching the international propaganda or one-sided information that is being spread throughout the world. This is the new deception.
If you look in a study they did in a survey, that the average worker watches 30 hours of television a week. Children, they say 40 to 60 hours of television a week, a full-time job, watching nonsense. This is what they're doing. When you go to the managers of these people, they watch 20 hours a week. When you go to the people over the managers, then you get like 10 hours a week. When you get to the CEOs, they watch 2 to 3 hours of television a week. 50% of that material is material related to the work that they're doing. So the movers and shakers in this world are not sitting around watching television. They're utilizing their lives for shar, for evil. And they're spreading their facade all over the world, but they're busy at it. And the Muslims are asleep, and because we have gone to sleep, they have taken over.
And so this order, that some people speak about, is an order that would have religion on the side. People who believe in God, you consider to be an ignorant person, a backward person. It also glorifies race and nationalism. It also promotes class divisions. There's the rich and the poor, and it seems like in many countries the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And that is what we see on the outside. On the inside of the people's hearts, they are being deceived into the love of the life of this world. It is a confusion. It is a fantasy world being promoted to you. It is an international Disneyland, which is being propagated to the people of the world. So you think that that's what the world is. You think that everything will be okay if you live in a certain way, if you eat certain foods, if you act in a certain way. This is ghurur. It is deception.
Because we have gone to sleep, they have taken over. And that's why we find ourselves in the horrific condition we find ourselves in. And until the Muslims wake up, it's just going to, one nightmare to another. We're just going to be in one nightmare to another. That's all it is. They're just nightmares because we're asleep. And when we wake up, then we can enter into the light of day. And Islam is a deen about waking up. That's what it is. Religion is supposed to wake people up. They'll use the drug of television. They'll use the drug of their mass media. They'll use all these drugs, but they're going to keep you asleep because they fear the day that you wake up. That's what they fear. And you should be very well aware of that.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to The Modern Family, and the topic today is media. A powerful piece there by two speakers on TV. Just before the break, we talked about the trends in TV and the trends in the printed media, magazines. We talked about the importance of parents familiarizing themselves with the technology, the use of the digital receiver, and monitoring what children use. And part of that monitoring is using the parental lock. They don't need 1,000 channels, so it's good to utilize the favorite facilities. So you can categorize the channels according to different categories: news, entertainment, sports.
Ahmed said something even very important about deleting the channels, because these channels, if they have an effect on our kids, we are human beings as well as adults, and they can affect us as well. So if we don't need, or we feel that these channels are inappropriate to us, we should delete them.
It's a good thing. Once you have your favorites, there are two issues here. One, what do you do with the rest? Of course, you delete. You are encouraging to delete the rest. But in the favorites themselves, you would have news, sports, entertainment, children, education, etc. Would you say that the favorites that you have chosen to be suitable to you might not be suitable for children, that you might need to use parental lock, or whatever you have put there for yourself, you deem it suitable for children as well?
Not entirely.
Okay.
I would say 90% of the time is suitable for the children, but there are certain programs, certain shows that talk about love relationships, or they use a discourse that is not appropriate to our culture. For example, we have programs come from Turkey, come from Lebanon, from Latin America, and they use certain words. They use some kind of human relations that are not in abundance or visible in our culture. Yeah. And this is, from my assessment, is not appropriate for our children to see. This is my view. Maybe other people would say that they need to be exposed to the real world, but I think they will have their time.
Is it suitable for adults?
It is suitable for some adults. I mean, I don't watch them because I find in them degrading to my intellect, and it is melodramatic in quite few senses, and it in a way turns the humans into hedonistic animals. So I do not watch them, but I know people who watch them. Yeah. But regardless of that, these programs come on good channels, generally speaking. These are good channels. They have diversity of programs. So I would not delete the channel just because of one show that is not good. But, you agree with your child. For example, I mean, I agree with my children on what channels they watch, what channels they do not watch. And if we are together and something comes up, we ask them what to do and where to go and so forth. So you need to guide them along with that. And if they are on their own, I mean, as Har mentioned in the previous call, you need to build within them some element of trust. That even after you deleted these bad channels that you don't need, but even within the good channel, if something comes up and you are not certain of its suitability, you need to build within your children the confidence and the courage to say, no, I don't want to watch it, I'm not going to go ahead with it. Or if they watched it, they would come forward and tell you. Yeah. One thing I insist with my children, particularly my wife actually insists on with my children, is as-sidq, saying the truth. Yeah. Even if they commit a mistake, it's important for them to come forward and tell us what they did. We will forgive them. But we will not forgive them, or we will be very harsh on them if we find out from other sources what they've done.
Okay. So being truthful is very important. I do that with my children. I never punish them if they say the truth, no matter what they did. But if I find out from somewhere else and they try to hide it, then it's trouble. We've talked about the different contents and how the suitability of those contents to children. The trend in media now is moving towards a more violent content. It's moving towards more sexual content, even in cartoons. How do we deal with that? It's cartoon websites.
Before Ahmed responds to this, I just wanted to share this about violence. It says the amount of violence on television is on the rise. The average child sees 12,000 violent acts on television annually, including many depictions of murder and rape. More than 1,000 studies confirm that exposure to the heavy doses of television violence increase aggressiveness behavior, particularly in boys. Other studies link television or newspaper publicity of suicide to an increased suicide risk.
So I think that really speaks to itself without any commentary. Anyone sane would not expose to their children to such a thing. Another type of content, the content that kills the innocence of children in terms of showing explicit scenes and thoughts regarding relationships between male and female.
Well, I think, your question, both questions, stem from the concern of protecting our children.
Yes.
Which is a very valid concern. And I agree with you that exposing children to violence scenes of explicit nature does impact their innocence, does impact their childhood. And I think you need to speak, one should speak to his or her children. I try my best to minimize the exposure. It's becoming very difficult. You would need to limit it to certain media channels, certain TV channels.
Yeah.
But then you need to talk to them. You need to talk to the children and explain to them why you are doing this, why you are not allowing them, what is happening to them when they watch such things. It's very important. I think you should avail of the opportunity to introduce a dialogue with your children. But most importantly, try to minimize exposure. These scenes, the violent scenes, the explicit scenes, the abusive language, really it's such a disgrace. It's not only available on TV, but you want to have to watch the video games on smartphones, video games on on PlayStation and so forth. They really ruin the standard of manners in children.
Absolutely. Can
I just say one tiny thing here? We run the risk that when we stop our children watching this or preventing them, we run the risk of being accused of being backward, of being very controlling freak kind of parents. I would rather prefer to be called a freak than to lose the sanity of my children.
Absolutely.
Here it says that teens rank the media as the leading source of information about sex, second only to school sex education programs.
And this is in the West.
In the West,
we don't have that here, and we would rather not have it because the negatives that came out of that is more than the positives.
For sex education?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not very certain about that.
There are examples of some Western countries where they had to go into sex education. Why? Because of the way they live and because of the environment that has forced them actually to go into sex education. Now, that's because of the behavior of a particular part of society. Now, the innocent part of the society is being exposed to sexuality through sex education in schools, and they have everything to know now at a very young age. They don't have the wisdom, and you end up having them practicing what they have just learned.
Well, I don't want to alarm you, but acts of sex, within schools is prevalent all over the world, even in Oman or other Gulf countries. When I used to work at the Majlis al-Shura, I came across statistics of some sexual activity taking place in our schools. And that's why I would say it's important that you give them a proper sex education that is appropriate to our culture.
Exactly.
Okay? Not the sex education as it is in the West, but something which tells children about their reproductive rights, their reproductive health, and what they watch and what they do not watch. Particularly, as you might know, that in Muscat alone, 50%, actually in Sib, not Muscat, the Wilayat of Sib, 50% of the youth population is unmarried. And it's alarming, and we have a large number of young men and women coming to study from outside Muscat, and if they do not know how to protect themselves, how to look after themselves, it will be quite challenging for them.
I know we have deviated a little bit from the topic, but this is a very important topic indeed. And what I would like to add is the danger of talking about sex education in Oman, for example, is when we talk about it as something new. It is not new. It is embedded within our religion. As you mentioned, we are encouraged, and we talked about this yesterday, that there are some sensitive issues we need to talk about with our children at a particular age.
Definitely.
And we do that.
And I think it's best done by the parents.
And it is done by parents. Once it is done at school, you don't know how it is done, and it might be in a class where there are 40 young students, and in a way that is suitable to probably 50%, but not suitable with the rest. So we do have sex education, but we need to reinforce it within families and reinvigorate the Islamic values back again into our lives.
I think we need to comment on the clip that we played in the break, during the break, when they said that when they were talking about the influential people around the world the people who are making the decisions, they spend less time watching TV.
And that is, I think, to answer to many people who say that you would learn quite a lot on TV. Yes, you would learn quite a lot, but you would learn even quicker and faster and much more effectively using the more conventional way, by reading books.
And being engaged. I mean, I think the issue with these people, I mean, the blue collar workers and and others who are on the lower end of the work spectrum, while we respect their work and the contributions they make to society, their work tends to actually consume them physically. So when they go back home, they don't want to engage their mind. They just want to give their mind a break.
Relax.
A break. Not to relax. They just do a break, they switch off their mind, and that's why they delve into TV. While with the higher end of the spectrum, people are not exhausted physically. They actually very much excited mentally, and they need to keep that excitement by being involved and engaged in many other activities. These CEOs they mentioned in the clip, these are people who not only work, though the clip said 50% of the time they spent on TV is related to their work, but there are people who need to know what is going around them. Outside the time they watch TV, they engage with other functions in society, outside the normal, conventional circles that they are associated with.
Mm-hmm.
I have another statistic here I wanted to add. It's about music videos. Which is part of the media as well and TV. It says up to 75% of videos contain sexually explicit material, and more than half contain violence that is often committed against women.
But to what extent, pardon me, the children or the youth understand the language? I mean, I see children, including some of my children, when they watch some of these musical videos or they listen to them on their iPod, and they use languages that sometimes they repeat, and I say to them, do you understand what these words are? And they have no idea whatsoever. They just think it's fancy to repeat a particular thing or something. So then it's the role of the parent to watch. I mean, I'm going over and over again. The parent's role is to not to strictly control, guide and oversee. You have to oversee
and educate
and
them.
Educate. You have to see within you the right to go and do a spot inspection at your children. Don't feel, no, I'm not going to infringe on their privacy. I do apologize, I'm sorry, but you really need to go and check, suddenly what your children are watching. You can go and do a spot check in their wardrobe, what kind of TV or DVDs they have, maybe they have drugs or something. And maybe through the media they believe that drugs is good, it makes you a macho man. So it is our responsibility to do this inspection, and we should not apologize for it, because it's our duty. And at the same time, educate them, give them some scope. What I do with my children, I give them opportunities to prove that they are up to the responsibility they require. But when they fail it, they have to pay for it. When they pay for it, it means grounding. They may lose some of the freedom they enjoyed before. So you have to deal in more than one way with the children.
Some parents, Ahmed, are oversensitive about their kids. They worry about every single thing, and it becomes very disturbing to their children.
Overprotective.
Overprotective, yes. How can we guide these parents? And are they allowed? Are they right to be overprotective at this era?
You can be overprotective perhaps when your child is young, below the age of 7. But from when they reach the age of 7, sin at-tamyiz, you have to educate them how to use this intellectual skill. And also you need to let go. And when I speak to parents who are overprotective, I always remind them that they can never be more merciful about their children or care about their children than God himself. So if you let go little, and entrust them to God and do your work, God inshallah will help them through.
Ahmed, we spoke about TV and its positives and negatives, and we have touched into too much details about different aspects. What we would like to focus in the last few minutes of this show is we would like practical advice, practical tips. How should parents behave and how should they act to better utilize media and TV and control their children? Within our talk and discussions, we have spoke about minimizing exposure, and you have emphasized on that. Minimize exposure, and you mentioned 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, this is some circulated standard from international bodies.
So whether 30 minutes or 1 hour a day,
some kind of period, specific period.
Minimize it and once you minimize it, there would be some gap in the child's life. So secondly, what we need to do is create alternatives. And we would like you to share with us a technique that you use with your children that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Before we started the program. So please let us know about your experience, and then we'll go through other steps.
I believe that children are quite intelligent, all children of mankind, and they resort to TV, as the easy way out. But if you switch off TV, so when, for example, I have to be with the children for a long period of time because my wife is going somewhere, or when we have social gathering, they bring all the children, so I can end up with 15 children in one go, okay? And I look after all of these 15 children.
Superman.
No, not really Superman. Okay, so the way I do it is I switch off TV completely. Okay, because the moment you have TV, they will fight over what to watch, for how long, who has control, and so forth. In addition to the language you use. So when you switch TV, you minimize the competition. Then I actually develop a list of tasks they have to do, and so each task is around 30 minutes. 25-30 minutes. So it could be they draw, they paint, they go and play, they help me in something, we go to the kitchen. So you keep changing their attention every 30 minutes, okay, in order to make them more attracted to you, more attuned to you, and they believe that you care about them. And then after you finish, let's say 2 hours, let's say, maybe you can give them some time to watch for half an hour or something. Then you go switch off the TV and you give them food. The most important thing is you have to plan the time you are spending with the children in 30 minutes interval.
We'll continue with that. I think we have a caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, brother?
Good, alhamdulillah. I was just listening to you talk about the media and information and television. And something that I learned quite later on in life that I wish I would have learned when I was younger is that somehow due to our schooling system and our education system, we have started taking information on the face value. We have stopped questioning it. I think if parents can make their children make it a habit to don't absorb any information on the face value and being able to question it, whether it's a religious belief or something they heard on TV or on radio, just from second source, just to able to question it. I think most of the information that we don't are not true and we don't want our children to believe in will be filtered out by this practice if they have the practice of questioning whatever comes across them.
Thank you. That's a very valid point and a very important one. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. You too. Bye bye.
I couldn't agree more with the second caller, and I think if you remember what we discussed earlier. As a parent, you need to know as much as possible why. The answer to the question why. Why you do this, why you don't do this, why we are supposed to be doing this, and so forth.
Yeah. So I'm really fascinated with your technique there with your children and giving them alternatives. And I found that there are a lot of problems through my own experience with my children that you could eliminate a lot of bad behavior simply by giving them alternatives. You devise alternatives for them to do, or it could be anything. All you need to do is just try and see what clicks with them.
You also encourage them. I mean, I have, as I said, 4 boys. When we have children, from mixed, gender. you encourage the children to think for themselves what they want to do to spend the next 1 hour or so. And you would be amazed how creative children can be.
Yes.
They would actually create teams, they would create new toys, new games, and, the girls would create new toys for themselves and do all sorts of things. So just give them the space. Unfortunately, TV, we think, is the easiest way to keep them entertained, suffocates their capacity for creativity.
And innovation.
And innovation, definitely.
I have a couple of tips as well. One that I have heard a while ago in a lecture. It was about time management. And the lecturer said, in front of the TV, put the least comfortable seat. So you don't spend too much time there. In today's world, when we design our houses, we put the most comfortable seat or sofa in front of the TV. And it is very important to really reconsider relocating the TV to have a better social life. Now we put a TV in the family room where we all sit together.
With food all over the place.
With food and everything. So it takes over the conversation that should have taken place between parents and their children. I suggest that you have a separate room for a TV where it is functional and you only use it when needed. We could go on and on about this, and what we hope in this program that we have raised the awareness of parents, and hopefully they'll be creative in the way they deal with it.
Inshallah.
Ahmed bin Ali Al-Mukhaini, thank you very much for being with us today. Dear listeners, time is running out. Tomorrow's show, inshallah, will be about punishment and reward with children. Today's show will be repeated at 9 o'clock. From me, Wa'il Al-Harrasi.
Al-Hatim Al-Absalam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family. The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Join the discussion and give us your feedback. Live with Hatim Al-Abdussalam and Dr. Wa'il Al-Harrasi. The Modern Family.
To be there